Good evening. I am recording Wednesday night ghost stories. It's been a while since I've been on. I apologize. I've been working really hard at work and I'm going to try to do better to get these podcasts out for Wednesday. Um, I want to prefix this um, podcast because there is some violence in it. And if you are subject to any kind of concerns for violence, you don't want to listen to the podcast. It's not super violent where someone gets murdered, but there is some violence in it, and sometimes that does upset some people. So if you find violence upsetting, please don't listen to this podcast. Okay, so in 1984, I was 7 years old. And as you know, if you listen to the prior podcasts, I am Anna, um, in those stories, and those stories are real mostly. Um, I was 7 years old. We lived in Costa Mesa, California, in that haunted house. I lived mostly with my mom and my grandmother, and then sometimes my aunt and one of my uncles would move in with us for a while. We were quite poor, and I had never lived anywhere else in my 7 years, and I had not ever had my own bedroom or even had my own bed for some of the time because we had to share a bed. And so I just want to preface that for the story. So my mom had met a man, and as women do, she fell in love, and um, this man had two children, and so they would come and visit, and we would have a good time. And then one day my mom came to me and said that we were moving today. I don't remember if there was a conversation prior to this where she told me, "Hey, this man that I have been seeing, we're going to move in with him." Um, I don't remember that conversation. Only my mom will know if that happened, but in my memory, there's nothing. So it was just all of a sudden out of the blue. I'm moving to this new place with this man that I hardly know, because my mom was dating him, and she brought him around, but I he wasn't around all the time. So um, and I would be leaving my grandma behind, which my grandma watched me. When my mom was at work, my mom worked a lot. So I was with my grandma more than I was with my mom, sadly. And my grandma was more of a mother figure to me at that time because my mom had to work so many hours to support us. So I was very upset. I was very upset that I had to move. I was very upset that, I didn't know this man, and I frankly didn't like him. I'm seven. You don't like men, you don't know men. And the only men that I did know were my uncles. And of course, you love your uncles, but they're not strange men to you. So, anyways, I was told the day of moving, a big moving truck comes up, and I ran away. I took my mom's 1970 suitcase out of wherever I found it. I think it was in the garage. And it was one of those old, really hard suitcases that had like orange and green flowers from the 70s, and like a like my glasses. I don't know. They're like Bakelite handle, and I took all my stuff that I could fit in the suitcase, and I ran around the corner. And what was really strange is that I saw this man and that I'd never seen before around the corner, and he like tried to grab me. So that scared me, and I ran right back. And so it ended up that I did have a huge fit, but we moved, and people were helping us move. And I remember that night, and you remember I was 7 years old. Um, I slept on a twin bed in the middle of the kitchen because that's just where I ended up. People were talking. I'm sure they were still unpacking. So my first night in that new house was asleep on in the kitchen on a mattress on the floor. And that house was a small house. It was like 1,100 square feet. We moved to a city called El Toro in California, and we had the house was, oh, this is hilarious. It was like a poo green. I'm not kidding you. It was a poo green, and it was a corner house, and it had a really large yard, which is a plus. But these are memories afterwards. This is not what I thought at 7. 7, I was just pissed that I had to leave my home into this new place. So, anyways, fell asleep on, in the kitchen, like I said, woke up, and we started putting things in this room. And my mom told me, "Oh, this is going to be your room." And it didn't occur to me that she wasn't going to be in that room with me at the time when we started putting the room together. So, um, anyway, the day goes by and it's night, and I have to go to bed. So, getting ready for bed, and my mom tells me a story as she did, and then she goes to leave, and I'm like, "Wait, where are you going?" And I don't know, most of you have kids. I mean, I don't know if most of you have kids or if you don't have any kids, but at 7, I had a temper tantrum, man. I had the biggest tantrum that my mom was not going to sleep with me and that I was going to be alone in this new house, in this strange place with this strange man, in the other room. And so my mom, like, basically left me screaming and told me to go to sleep. Well, the one of the other things is that if you've listened to my other podcasts, I did not sleep without a light on. I had a night light in my room. The hallway light was on when I lived with, my grandma and my mom in Costa Mesa, and the bathroom light had to be on, because I was terrified in that house. And so, anyway, this man, his name was Daryl. He did not allow my mom to leave the lights on because that costs money. And I was in that room terrified until finally I was like, I can't do this. And I got up and I walked into the room my mom's room with Daryl. And I started crying, and I was like, I can't, can I just sleep on the floor? I brought my blanket. I won't make any noise. I just can't sleep alone. You gotta remember, I never slept alone in my life. It's been my whole entire life. And she kept telling me no. And, the screaming got louder by me, of course. I'm 7. And this strange man that, I knew in passing, got up, started screaming at me, grabbed my arm, started dragging me to my room. And I wrenched myself away from him and started running. He ran after me, screaming, "Get the F back in your room. You are not sleeping here. You effing, this." And he was screaming pretty bad. And he chased me to what is my room and threw me on the bed, took my pants down and hit me. And I'm crying, and he's telling me, "You stay here. You're not sleeping with your mother. We're sleeping by ourselves. You don't get up from this room." And then he left and slammed the door, which all of this is new to me. I was never hit before. I never really screamed at. And like when for discipline, it was like my grandma threatening me to hit her. My grandma was handicapped, and she would threaten us because my cousins would come over as well, and she would watch us all, and we would get threatened by the cane. So she would have this cane, and she said that she was going to hit us with this cane if we didn't behave. But we never got hit by a cane, if that makes any sense. Like, it was just threats. So I never gotten screamed at like that. I never got spoken to like that. Never gotten hit ever. So you can imagine how tragic that was for a 7-year-old child to one, get chased, get sweared at, and get hit. So I completely had a breakdown. Like I cried myself to sleep. It was a really horrible night. My mom never came back in the room. I'm sure she didn't know what to do because I'm sure she never experienced that either. And so um middle of the night, I wake up out of nowhere. I wake up out of my deep sleep that I cried myself into, oblivion to, and I look up and there's uh, a man that I didn't know, standing at the foot of the bed. And I'm looking, and he starts talking to me, and he says, well, first of all, let me explain what he looked like. So he had all white on. He had a white button-down shirt and a white, like almost like khaki pants, but they were white. And then he had a black belt, and he had like a receding hairline, like almost like Eddie Munster, if anybody's my age, you know what I'm talking about. And and he said to me, he said, everything is gonna be okay. I'm gonna be with you, and I'm going to protect you, and you don't have to worry anymore because that's not gonna happen again. And I didn't know who this man was, but I felt comforted and I believed what he said to me. And I went back to sleep. And I wasn't scared, which is weird. And I didn't think to myself at that time, who was that man or anything like that. I was 7. So, um, anyways, so that night, this man came to me. And so the next morning, I didn't say anything to my mom or anything. And we were putting things away in the room for a while. And then I was playing with my Barbies. And I think a lot of people had this in the 80s, but it was a music box with a little dancing ballerina on a spring. So the spring was like this, and the she would twirl on the spring, and she never stayed on the spring. My mom kept having to glue it. Anyways, I was playing with my Barbies. I opened up the jewelry box, and inside the jewelry box was a photo, and it was a black and white photo. And there was this man, the man who I saw the night before in my room talking to me. And I didn't know who this man was. I had never seen him before last night, but now I had a photo in my jewelry box of this man. And I went over and I grabbed the photo and I brought it to my mom, and I was like, "Mom, who is this man?" And she explained to me that that man was my grandfather. And he had died when my mom herself, I think she was 3 or 4, when he died. So that man that came to me in the middle of the night, I truly believe was a ghost, was my grandfather, and he looks over me. And that night, I mean, from that night on, I was never hit again, but there was a lot of other uh things that happened in that household that wasn't, healthy. But because he wasn't really a nice man. But in retrospect, I'm pretty sure that my grandfather came to me and comforted me in my time of need. I haven't seen him again, but there's times where I felt a presence of support when I needed it, and I truly believed it was him, and I spoke to him. But I think there's ghosts out there, and you know, um, I digress. Anyway, I'm just going off in a completely different directions. But what I wanted to say is that you know things happen in your life, and you need to look at the signs and follow them if you believe that someone is helping you. So this is it for Wednesday night podcast. I never know how to end these things. And but please like and subscribe. Make sure that you are following us and listening to our podcast. I don't know what to say. Matt, delete the rest of this. Make sure you like and subscribe to our podcast. The support really helps us. And it's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. And then also our YouTube channel. And all right, that's the end of our podcast. Please thank you for all your support. We really appreciate it. If you watch us on YouTube, please like and subscribe and share. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It really helps us. And again, we appreciate your support, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.